we have here something very helpful. We have here a little container of yogurt. Now, this is not ordinary yogurt. We want to be sure about that. This is Greek yogurt. This is the real thing. See, we're all on this healthcare learning curve, you know. But now, how many here have eaten Greek yogurt? Greek yogurt, okay. Well, we must be awfully healthy, because I know this one says this is the richest and the creamiest yogurt in Western civilization. Well, that's a lot to say, but we do know that what we eat is important, because what we eat becomes a part of us. So we want to eat in the best way that we can, in the healthiest way. Well, Jesus uses eating to teach us an important lesson in tonight's gospel. When we eat ordinary food, like our yogurt here, it becomes a part of us, like it or not. But when we eat the food, the spiritual food that He gives us, we become a part of it. It becomes a part of us, and we become a part of it. And there's an important difference here, and that's what we want to talk about tonight. It's our lesson. To begin with, let's just remember what Jesus said. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in him. Now, right away, Jesus didn't even have a chance to get the words out of his mouth, and people started to object, didn't they? Huh? People started to object. How can this man give us his flesh to eat? But notice, Jesus doesn't change the message, and he doesn't back down. He's very simply telling them how he's going to be with them after he leaves this world. And he's telling them, I'm going to be with you in a very special way whenever you gather to remember what I taught and what I did. I'm going to be there. And that's the way Jesus is with us tonight when we're gathered here. He's with us in the most special of ways. Now, this was also an important message for the people who first heard this message in our gospel. See, the Gospel of John was the last of the Gospels written. It was probably written about 100 years after Jesus died and rose. And already the people were gathering together on Sundays, much like we're gathered here tonight. And they needed to remember that when they did that, Jesus was there with them in the most special of ways. And that's what we want to remember. Now, let's not forget the difference between the ordinary food that we eat, that becomes a part of us, and the special food that Jesus gives when we become a part of Him. Now, this is not always a message that can make us comfortable, Because if we're going to be a part of Jesus, truly, then we have to become a part of what he taught, what he said, what he did. What was important for Jesus, important for us. But remember Jesus' concern, the special concern he had for the forgotten people of society, the poor, the outcast of society. If our concern isn't his concern, we aren't concerned about what he did, what he taught, then we're really not becoming a part of Christ, are we? And this can make us very uncomfortable. Now, this whole idea of Christ becoming a part of us and we becoming a part of Christ, it's always been a challenge to understand. That's why the people in the gospel needed to be reminded of it. Maybe an example will help. Catherine was an inmate at the County Justice Center, the jail, just a block away from here. And not only did she face some pretty significant charges, but she also at the same time had a recurrence of a very serious disease. And when I asked her, now Catherine, how do you deal with all this? You're here, you're locked up, and yet this disease came back. How do you deal with that? And she said, you know, the only way that I can deal with it is by receiving communion at Mass. If I know that Christ is with me, then I can keep going. It's always been true in my life. She said, you know what's the hardest part? The hardest part is forgiving myself. The hardest part is forgiving myself. But if I know that Christ is with me, I know that Christ forgives me, and I know that Christ is not going to abandon me. Now, Catherine might have been in jail, but we have to admit she sure had the message down, didn't she? Huh? She had the message of our gospel tonight down cold. Christ is saying, I'm going to be with you, no matter what's going on. So tonight, as we get ready to share in the body and blood of Christ, let's ask ourselves, now what looks most difficult for me in life right now? What looks most difficult? Now, it could be something that just happened recently, or it could be something we've been struggling with for years. But let's just take part of a minute tonight, and ask ourselves, now, what do I face that looks most difficult to me now? And now, let's just remember the words of Christ. Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood remains in me, and I in them. Very simply, he's saying, I'm going to be with you. I'm not going to abandon you. I'm going to be with you. So as we go on, if we can just remember that presence of Christ for us, we can face what life puts before us. We can face even the things that look most difficult now.